This is Between the Uprights.
Football is life. The rest is just details.
Here are your hosts, Joe, Matt, and Chris.
The Vikings and the Rams are facing off Monday night, the last game of Wild Card Weekend. And you know what? The Vikings didn't think they'd be here. They thought the Lions were too hurt to win a game in Week 18 that was going to decide the 1 seed and the NFC North Division, the battle for the North, as it was called. You can check out our video on that game as well if you want to check that out. And they fumbled the bag. It was close up until the fourth quarter, and it just got ugly quick. The Detroit Lions defense, with all those injuries, they got some people back, and they absolutely showed why they bite kneecaps, baby. And I am telling you right now, the Vikings should be out for blood, because if they win this game, based on how we see the rest of the week going, how the rest of this is going, do you know where the Vikings go if they win this game? That's right. They will go to the 2 seed. They will go back to Detroit, baby, and they will, or the 1 seed, I apologize, the 1 seed, unless Matt gets his way with the Commanders, which he's not going to. But the Vikings will go to Detroit for a rematch, and I cannot wait. It is going to be, that's what's going to happen. Or is it? Can the Rams pull off the upset? And I know what you're thinking right now. The Rams pull off the upset. They're the home team. They are not favored in this game. They are one of 2 home teams, both 4 seeds, on one on the AFC, one on the NFC side, are not favored for their home games against the 5 seed in this matchup right now. But the Rams do have a quarterback who's been there before, and a gritty quarterback at that. 2 great wide receivers and an offensive line that's good, and a young, get after it defense that can still cause some damage. So I'm going to go to Chris on this one right here. Chris, who is your X factor in this game that could decide it?
So for me, I have 2 different ones, and basically it's one for each team. So for the X factor for the Rams, it's going to be pressure. Pressure, pressure, pressure. If that's not one thing we learned from the Lions game, it better be. And it better be quickly. Because as long as you can pressure Sam Darnold, if you can get him uncomfortable, if you can make him throw some things he doesn't want to throw him down the field, out of bounds. He's throwing some really bad balls in the last matchup that we watched against the Lions on this Sunday night. So if you can do that, then that almost virtually takes Justin Jefferson out of the equation. Because if he can't throw the ball the way that we've seen him throw it all season, and you're talking about playoff time, like we just talked about it. It's a different animal. It's a different animal. Regular season, playoff, completely different. There's so much pressure, and the teams are all very good. All you need to do is make sure you can pressure him. If you can pressure Sam Darnold and get him out of his stance and get him from his ability to get the ball down the field, or whether it's even little drop throws, if you can get him out of that rhythm, you have a very good shot of giving him a really bad game. On the other side, Vikings, stopping the run. Stopping the run. Because as amazing as Stafford is, he seems to really be able to take over these games when they have that beautiful, beautiful running back that they have right now, who is just blowing people up. When he's able to do that, and they're able to get into that type of pass play to where it's both running back and you're getting to throw the ball down the field to a Puka Nacua, you're in a good spot. But if you're able to pressure him, and because you're stopping the run, so you're causing him pressure, which means he can't get the nice play action. That's what I'm trying to say. What he's getting to. He's perfect at play action. Now, what you can't do is you can't constantly pressure him. We've seen that against the Patriots. We've seen that against several different defensive teams who continuously try to pressure, and it doesn't work because he's too much of a veteran. So if you're able to stop that run and to get him enough pressure to get him off his stance, that's where you're going to see a huge difference for the Vikings. But overall, I think that absolutely the biggest X factor is going to have to be on the Rams side, and that's going to be to pressure Sam Darnold. Because the only way to get Justin Jefferson out of the game is to pressure Sam Darnold and to get him off his own game.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold, for as good of a season he's having, and let's be fair, he's having a great season. I mean, we
Absolutely.
talked about Baker Mayfield and the Commanders Bucks matchup having a great season. We've talked about what Jared Goff is doing. We've talked about what Sam Darnold's doing multiple times. Sam Darnold's having a great season. But one thing in his career that you've always noticed, even when he was back with the Jets, was the amount of pressure you get on the man completely can rattle him. And we saw that again, as you said, against Detroit. And, as like I just illustrated, they have some bona fide young sort of green pass rushers on that Rams team. All right. They are absolutely getting after the ball right now. I mean, Jared Verse is over there. Frisk is over there. Both of those guys came from Florida State. Both of those guys are great pass rushers. Both of those guys have been showing out for that team and have been really coming along this season, doing really well. But on the other side of the ball, you brought up a really good point. Darnold may have his own problems, right? But when you look at Matt Stafford's a veteran, and we watched the Patriots, as you said, send blitz after this guy. He's been blitzed so many times. He knows everything's coming. But I will say that if I had to pick one defensive coordinator to come up with very exotic blitzes that wasn't a Chiefs defensive coordinator, Brian Flores throws a kitchen sink at people, man. So if there's going to be a guy to draw up a blitz to confuse Sam or to confuse Matt Stafford, it might just be Brian Flores. But as much as we're saying, this defense doing pass rush, that defense doing pass rush, how can they defend the run? Let's go and ask about what the key matchups are in this game. So I'm going to go to Matt, who's got the key matchups for us in this game, buddy. What are the key matchups in this game?
Wow, you guys are excited. Wow, that's like the first time anyone's ever been excited for something I've had to say. I appreciate that, guys. But listen, you guys made great points about the Rams defensive line versus the Vikings offensive line. Joe, you talked about it. Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Jared Verse. That's a solid pass rush rotation, but it only led the Rams to 22nd in the league in sacks, however, this year. But if they can generate pressure, you guys talked about it. Sam Darnold looked really bad under pressure last week. Granted, it wasn't like four-man pressure. It was like they were just blitzing the shit out of Sam Darnold last week, every single play for Aaron Glenn and the Detroit Lions. And it obviously worked out. Sam Darnold took some sacks, was under pressure, was inaccurate with some of his throws. And Darnold took the 10th most sacks in the league this year as well. So, and we saw it last week. This is an injury that kind of went unrecognized, but we saw last week star left tackle Christian Darrisaw's injury starting to show against the Detroit Lions, because that pressure was getting to Sam Darnold and he was not having a good time. But so I liked all your guys' points on that. But the key matchup in this game, to me, and again, this might be something that's underrated because Puka Nakua's took over this receiving corps so much. To me, I think it's Cooper Kupp against this Vikings secondary this week, because to me, Brian Flores is such a good defensive coordinator that he's going to find a way to maybe not quite neutralize Puka Nakua, but he's going to find a way to slow him down. And we're going to have to find a way, if we're the Rams, to get Cooper Kupp involved, because he has not been nearly as involved in this offense down the stretch as you would like him to be for the Los Angeles Rams. I know all my fantasy football players out there who had Cooper Kupp in the fantasy playoffs probably did not win their championships because he was not coming in clutch down the stretch. He was not putting up big numbers down the stretch. And I think this game is going to be a really big one for Cooper Kupp. So neither of these teams are great against the pass. Rams defense is 20th in the league against the pass, and Vikings defense was 28th in the league against the pass. It was partially because a lot of teams were down against them. They had to throw late, and partially because most teams couldn't run against the Vikings either. But still, 28th in the league against the pass is not good. But neither team is really good at running the ball. The Vikings are 20th offensively in rushing, and the Rams were 24th offensively in rushing. So I think this game, it's going to be Stafford and Darnold slinging it around a lot. And like I said, I think Flores' game plan is going to be to stop Puka Nakua. So I think Cooper Kupp has to show up in this game. We've seen Cooper Kupp show up big and a lot of play. We saw Cooper Kupp be the Super Bowl MVP, for gosh sake. Like this guy has shown up in big situations. Matthew Stafford trusts him with his life. So I think he's going to have to trust him in this game, because I think Puka Nakua is going to get taken out of this game. By the way, Puka Nakua and Cooper Kupp got to be two of the best names in football. I love those. I will say those names all day. They got to be two of the best names in football. I love saying those names. Anyways, Cooper Kupp's got to show up, and the same goes for Jordan Addison for the Vikings as well, because Justin Jefferson, I feel like they're going to find a way to take him out of the game as well. Not obviously not take him out of the game, but neutralize him a little bit. So Jordan Addison's got to be big. But I think Cooper Kupp for both of these teams is going to be the single biggest player and the single biggest matchup that I think is going to be the determinant in who wins this game.
I mean, you're right. Those are two great names. I can't argue with that. It's so great that sometimes you even say them together as one name. Pooker.
Exactly. Pooker.
Pooker.
Hooker Nakukup.
Hooker Nakukup. Okay, sorry for the segue here. We're making a T-shirt. I'm going to take half of one of them, half of the other, and it's going to say Hooker on the front, and it's going to say Nakukup on the back, and it's going to be fucking hilarious.
It feels like a slur.
Hooker
It feels like a swear word. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't sound good.
Oh man, it's so bad. It's so bad. But you did bring up some really good points about how the Rams look when they for getting sacks, right? And they didn't blitz that often. They're not very good at sacks. I think you said they were like 22nd in sacks. They're 23rd in blitz rate. They only blitz like 23.7% of the time. You look at the what the Minnesota Vikings do, and we talked about how blitzing, you have to be very creative when you blitz Matt Stafford because he's able to identify it pre-snap and beat you. The Minnesota Vikings blitz the most out of anybody in the NFL, all right, at a 40.6%. No other team eclipsed the 40% blitz mark in the NFL. That tells you that all the Vikings do is send pressure. They will send pressure even when pressure doesn't need to be sent all the time, 365, 24/7. No holidays, man. They might as well be the USPS, all right? They're delivering packages all the time. And even if they don't get there, they're still trying, all right? That's what I'm talking about. But It is going to be a great, great game. I think you're going to see a lot of exotic blitzes from Brian Flores. I know the Minnesota Viking fans are in this video right now talking about, hell yeah, Brian Flores gets after. We're blitzing the shit out of him. We're going to blitz on every single fucking... They're blitzing Matt Stafford right now. They're in his front yard blitzing Matt Stafford. The Vikings are at the Rams practice, not even looking at what they're doing. They're just running after Matt Stafford the minute the ball gets hiked, right? The entire fucking team. But all of that aside, it's time for some predictions, baby. It's time to get in here and do some predictions. So I'm going to go to our resident Vikings hater. And no one can argue that she's not the resident Vikings hater because literally she single-handedly pissed off an entire franchise more than I. And the only reason that Broncos fans don't like me was I said two things. I said two things to Broncos fans. I called Bo Nix the mobile Mac Jones, the more athletic Mac Jones, and I said Broncos Nation, and it's Broncos country. So Broncos fans, you're in here, which I don't think you will be, but I'm sorry. It's Broncos country. I get it. Chris just said some absolutely heinous shit to Vikings fans, but I'm going to let her defend herself here after the Vikings couldn't clinch the 1 seed, couldn't clinch the NFC North. Do they clinch a win against the Rams in LA?
Listen, okay, first off, I've already apologized. I am not in the mode of apologizing multiple times, okay? I apologize and that you got your ass kicked the next week. So I apologized. Take it for what you want. They still didn't win. But anyways, moving on. So I'm gonna go with no. I don't think they take it. Based off what I saw against the Lions, I've really been on the Rams fan the last several weeks. Honestly, the last several months. I think they've done well. They have a vet at QB. They have two ridiculous wide receivers. Even though they may not have the best rushing in the world, I think they do have a legitimate running back that can get things done. So if I had to call it, I know it's going to be a tough one. I know it's going to be a hard one. I'm sure y'all aren't going to like me again because of this, even though I've already apologized. So whatever. But I'm going to go Rams, and I'm going to go Rams 24-17.
One score game's not bad. That's not bad.
We
can deal with that.
It's not rude. It's just playoff time.
I think we can deal with that. I don't think I'd be so angry. I'm very a little mad that you didn't pick them to win to make it for comeuppance or whatever. But I mean,
won last week.
Should be okay
Maybe
with
a different
that.
Conversation.
Should be okay with that. So obviously, Matt's already spoken about his love for Puka Nakukup and how great of names that those two guys got. So I'm going to go to him on this one. Are you with Chris? Do you think that Matt Stafford gets it done against this Vikings team in LA?
Well, listen, man, I'm going to save that for the end just to build dramatic suspense here. But listen, this is going to be the best game of Wild Card Weekend. This right here, you were talking heavy about the Bucs and the Commanders. This right here is going to be the best game of Wild Card Weekend, and we are getting it on Monday Night Football. Very excited for all of us to see it because this right here, these two teams, if these two teams weren't playing against each other, I think these two teams could make a run. I think if either of these two teams were playing against any of the other NFC teams besides the Eagles in this first round, they would be moving on to the next round. Unfortunately, they're playing each other, and one of them's got to go home. But listen, Vikings fans, your reward for going 14-3 and being the third best team in the NFL in the regular season is a road playoff game versus Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and the Rams. So again, we saw this team win a Super Bowl a couple years ago. This team is playoff proven. This team knows what to do when it gets to the playoffs. And listen, last week to the Detroit Lions, in my opinion, is like a demoralizing, like almost morale threatening loss for the Minnesota Vikings, because like you go into that game, you are 60 minutes away from the 1 seed, the best record, tied for the best record in the NFL, and a bye. After before the season, your preseason win total was 6.5 wins. Nobody believed in you, and you go into the last week of the season with an opportunity to win the division, the best division in NFL history, by the way, and then obviously get the number 1 seed and get the first round bye. And after all that, you end up on the road the next week in the playoffs playing against a championship caliber team in the Los Angeles Rams. So listen. Also, another sidebar. I lived in northern Iowa for a couple of years. I went to school. I played baseball in northern Iowa for a couple of years. Tons of Vikings fans there. I know so many Vikings fans. Like that's probably the number 1 fan base that I know is the Minnesota Vikings, and they are not going to be very happy with me about this. I just want to let you guys know I still love you, but I do not love your team. The Minnesota Vikings are going to go down to the Los Angeles Raiders on the road. And I know Vikings fans are going to tell me, oh, we're 6-2 on the road this year. You know, we have a really good road record. That's true. But you also lost last week on the road to the Detroit Lions. Your other loss on the road, week 8, Thursday Night Football. You want to know who it was, ladies and gentlemen? The Los Angeles Rams. They already beat you one time before in Los Angeles. They are going to do it again. Most stats probably say Minnesota, but my heart and my head say the Los Angeles Rams. McVay and Stafford are too deadly. The Rams are winning 27-23.
I mean, man. You guys brought up a lot of good points. You really did. You know, they didn't really prove it. They're the first 14-win team not to win their division. They made it so much harder on themselves by laying an egg on national television in Week 18, which was supposed to be the game of the week. We expected a shootout. We expected a tough-fought game. Expected a close game. And you lost 31-9. And, you know, that was, you know, the weekend after, you know, that you're seeing Sam Darnold being carried through the locker room and water doused on him, and everyone's hyped up and everyone's amped up because it's all coming down to this week. And it was almost like the lights were too bright. But you know what happens when you kind of get that first the lights are too bright game out of the way? You come in ready for the fucking next one, baby. And you know what, Vikings fans? I'm not going to abandon you here. I have put out some great Vikings content this year. I have put out some major faith in Sam Darnold. I have put out some major faith in Kevin O'Connell. I think Kevin O'Connell is probably a top 5 coach in the NFL right now. I have put out some major props to Brian Flores, who is probably one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL right now. And you know what I think is going to happen? I think they get to Sam. I think Sam Darnold stays upright. I don't think his shirt gets dirty. I think he has a great game. I think the offensive line goes out there and they absolutely ball the fuck out. And then I think that Matthew Stafford, that boy's jersey is going to be dirty. I think that Brian Flores draws up some very, very, very exotic blitzes, throws the kitchen sink at him, and I think they get to Matthew Stafford 8 times in this game. I think that they will get after Matthew Stafford. Right. I'm kidding. It's not 8. It's probably more like 5, but it's still going to be a lot. But I trying to get Stafford killed out here, dog. Right. I believe the Vikings get to Matthew Stafford. I believe they make life hard on him, and I believe they get out to a lead early and they hold it the rest of the way, at least to like the fourth quarter. And Matthew Stafford's going to make it interesting, because what would a Vikings playoff victory be if not a 1-score game? I believe it's going to be 24-21 Vikings.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.